What's up, guys? This is the Gospel According to Mark with a C. He is I and I am he. Just taking some time to tell you exactly what's on my mind. And guys, real quick, I just want to chime in on Daisy Ridley's so-called revelation that Disney LuKKasfilm, the story group, didn't really know what they were doing with Rey from one moment to the next. Now, I use the air quotes because, of course, guys, those of us who have been paying attention, who know what Star Wars is supposed to be and all that stuff, this comes as no big surprise. We all knew this. It's kind of like what I was saying last week. A lot of us were saying when John Boyega went on to talk about how his character was poorly developed. I don't see how you can watch the movie and not realize that, but of course these movies had its share of defenders and that whole mentality that all Star Wars is good Star Wars, which is utterly ridiculous. To me, that means what you're saying is that it's basically above criticism. Well, there is nothing in the world that is above criticism. It's just about what you accept. And if that's what you want to accept, if you just want to say all Star Wars is good Star Wars, as long as we're getting some Star Wars, I'm happy. Well, there you go. But it's like I've been saying all along, history will judge the fandom menace and critics of this new batch of movies. History will judge us to be right. And who knew that it would turn around so quickly? But here we are. So all I want to know is where you at? Where are you at? All those people who are defending this story, even though it was littered, it was destroyed with plot holes and lack of character development and all reason and excitement and all the things that made the original trilogy and the prequels, all those things that made those stories endure. Nobody's going to be talking about the so-called sequel trilogy in the space of maybe 5 or 10 years. It's just going to be an interesting footnote when it comes to the history of Star Wars and what went wrong. And hopefully this will be the bridge, over the garbage dump that leads to better Star Wars. That's what I'm really hoping, because look, this is one for the history books. It's already been written. And the more people come forward and talk about it, the more I think it's going to become apparent, and for all those people who attacked those of us who raised these concerns and who wanted to deflect by saying that these people who objected to it were racist and misogynists and murderers and rapists and everything else, the pet abusers, all that stuff you wanted to put on us, rather than address the very real concerns when it came to the story, and the inspiration for the story. Instead of doing that, they decided to throw all of the ills of humanity onto those of us who had concerns about this. So now, like I said, and I never doubted it for a minute, that it would just come more and more to light that they had no idea what they were doing. And I have this article here by CNN, where Daisy Ridley is saying, it says here, Daisy Ridley has reawakened the debate over Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker's biggest reveal, saying that the character of Rey's lineage wasn't clear to her even partway through filming the final chapter of the trilogy. All right, what does my man say? Not a movie, a trilogy, not just a movie. Okay, so it's a whole trilogy. We're talking 3 films over the span of, what is that, something like 6 years, the better part of 10 years. And this poor young actress had no idea what she was playing for or what she was playing up to or down to. She had no idea. The creative forces behind it had no idea. So they had the possibility of going with Rey Skywalker, all right, really Rey Skywalker, all right. We're talking about the actual lineage of the Skywalkers, not, just picking up the name. Rey Solo, it sounds like Rey Kenobi, she's saying. Or, in the end, Rey Palpatine. Now, this is supposed to be the hero of your trilogy, and with all of those, with all of those possibilities, they settled on Rey Palpatine. I almost forgot Rey Nobody, right? Okay, that's brilliant, Ryan Johnson. That just shows your creative process right there. Ryan Nobody, like there's nothing in here. Like what can I come up with? I know Rey Nobody. Yeah, that's brilliant. All right, so that's it. You had all of those choices, and they settled on Rey Palpatine. So it says here she had no idea. So she says, speaking to guest host Josh Gad on Jimmy Kimmel Live, Ridley said there were multiple changes along the way about the question of who Rey's parents were. According to Ridley, that included a connection to Obi-Wan Kenobi, which wouldn't have made any sense. Then the notion that she was no one, the theory presented in The Last Jedi, before the final outcome that Rey was the granddaughter of Emperor Palpatine and thus deserving of inheriting the Skywalker legacy. I guess that's great. She said, I wasn't sure what the answer was going to be. The question of Rey's background, given her natural ability with the Force, was the central mystery set up by Star Wars The Force Awakens. I mean, they sold it with that. You know, you had to wonder at the end of it, you know, once we realized it wasn't going to be Finn, you know, who we thought he was going to be, it ended with more than anything other than why was Luke standing on the side of that mountain while his friends were suffering and Han was being killed. The movie ended with the question, who is Rey? Where does she come from? You know, and I remember at that time there were so many articles that were written insulting the fans for even questioning that. You know what I mean? Especially with the release of The Last Jedi, they were like, of course, there were signs all over the place that Rey was a nobody. Oh, you guys were too stupid to be, you should have been paying attention. You know, and we were insulted for even questioning, you know, who Rey is, because it was obvious she was Rey nobody. And of course, everyone can have the Force, so we were being elitist by even suggesting that there be a tie-in with the Skywalkers, you know, at all, you know, a legitimate tie-in for that matter. You know, by the way, for my money, when I watched The Force Awakens, I thought the signs were there that she was going to be a Solo, you know, but that was just me. That's the way it played out to me. All right, so I remember all of those articles and, you know, how they went in on the fans for even being engaged enough to have those discussions. But it says here, let me see, the question of Rey's background, given her natural ability with the Force, was the central mystery set up by Star Wars The Force Awakens. That movie was directed by J.J. Abrams, as was The Rise of Skywalker. While the middle chapter, The Last Jedi, which took the story in a different direction, was directed by Rian Johnson. During a panel last year that followed The Rise of Skywalker screening, Abrams said that it was impossible to please everyone, and which you didn't have to do. You don't have to please everyone. You just have to make a good story, just like any other piece of art. You know what I mean? You make your little art, you hang it up on the wall, people come by, they look at it, and they interpret it as they will. And history will judge the greatness or the disposability of your art. I mean, that's just how it is. You know, you don't have to try to please everyone. Just make a good, credible, solid story. And you failed to do that, JJ, and Ryan, and Kathleen. All right. Abrams said it was impossible to please anyone, and that the point of the Rey Palpatine origins was that anyone could be anything regardless of where you're from, and that idea that you're from the worst possible place felt more resonant and shocking. You idiot. Ryan's comments and the prospect of her character being related to Kenobi fueled a new round of online discussion among fans. Rey Kenobi began trending regarding how that one detail could have altered the arc of the franchise mythology. Gad also asked if Palpatine was indeed her grandfather, if Palpatine was indeed her grandfather, then who was Rey's grandmother? You know, nobody cares. And Ridley says, you tell me, Josh, she says with a laugh. Look, nobody knows, guys. I don't even know if there's any more left of this article. No, it actually ends that way, which is appropriate. So, like I said, these people had no idea what was going on. There was no clear vision. All there were agendas. I mean, they knew exactly what political agenda they wanted to push. They knew what virtue they wanted to signal, what identity they wanted to politicize, all that stuff. But in the end, they forgot a good story, a good, timeless, classic story. And when you're dealing with the modern myth, such as Star Wars, you know, a classic mythology here, you owe that. If you're going to pick it up and you're going to have the arrogance to say that this is the end of the Skywalker saga, you have to come with something better than what they did, because now you've made history, all right, but you've made history by creating a massive failure. And subsequent generations, they're going to look at Star Wars, the original trilogy, they're going to look at the prequels, and then they're going to go on to the sequels, and then they're just going to be like, what happened? There is no way that this is going to stand the test of time. All right. We've been right about this. I'm talking about the fandom menace and, critics of this latest round of movies. We've been right about this up until now. We will be right about this going forward. Disney, Lucasfilm, if you want to right this ship, if there's any way possible, then you're going to have to get closer to George Lucas's vision. You're going to have to start listening to the fans. You're going to have to stop insulting us. You're going to have to apologize because everything that we've said has turned out to be true. You're going to have to come to the table and you're going to have to embrace the fandom. And I've said that from the very beginning. There's no getting around it. You know what I mean? So there it is. Some more words for you guys not to listen to. You know, another comment section for you to come in and act like a bunch of idiots and asses. You know, go on and do that. You know, but it is inevitable. You are going to have to, sooner or later, kiss the ring. All right, guys, it's your turn to get in the comment section. How do you feel about that? I mean, we've been talking about it for years. It's like we already know how we feel about it, but go on and sound off. Take your victory lap, guys, because this is what it's all led up to. And, you know, we're going to see what happens from here. It's a great learning opportunity. Hopefully they'll take it. You can like, you can share, you can subscribe, and, of course, you can catch me on Twitter. I will leave the link to that in the description box below. Give me a shout out. All right, guys, I will see you on the next one. This is The Gospel According to Mark with a C. Rock on.